point is they're releasing this in English because they want to give it to Western people, or at least people who speak English in Western countries, and allow them to be their little sleeper cells, right? But what I found...
I mean, if this is multiculturalism, it's not worth it. I don't want it. If this is diversity, it's not a strength. We've got Bondi 2.0. That title caught my eye. Now, I'm just going to guess what he's going to say. Because as you know, if you follow my channel and join in the live streams, I've been saying there's going to be another Bondi. We're like top high risk for another Bondi because Albo and Tony Burka and Penny Wong literally let terrorists back in the country that went to join ISIS brides. They let them back in the country. So that shows they'll let anyone in the country. They don't deport anyone doing mournings for the death of the Iranian dictator terrorist leader. Hundreds of people mourning him, so they obviously have his ideology and his views, and Albo does nothing about it. And he invites ISIS back into the country and gives them taxpayer hotel rooms. So we're going to get another Bondi, as bad it is. It's unfortunately, if you let these people in the country, that's what they do. So let's see what's going on here.
They destroyed the idea of peace in Australia. They terrified an entire population. 2 men destroyed the fabric of Australia, and just last week...
And Albo just blamed the far right, and the guns, and freedom of speech.
Al-Qaeda went online and gave the attack a 5-star review. They didn't claim responsibility for it or anything like that. They reviewed it. They said they loved it. They said they couldn't believe how great it was. They called it, in their words, quote, the gold standard, end quote. And then they asked their followers in this country for a sequel, Bondi 2.0.
Shit. See what I mean? Blamed us for the Islamic terror attack. Exactly, Australian. That's what it seemed to be. That's all they could talk about. They couldn't even say radical Islam. Now these freaks in the other countries that we probably import for votes are saying do it again.
It's coming. The part of the story that should terrify all of us is Al-Qaeda didn't claim responsibility for this. They didn't say, hey, this was us. They just said they loved it. They said they thought it was fantastic. Stay with me in this video because in about 4 minutes time, I'm going to show you the actual document that was released on this. It is absolutely wild. And what our government did while Al-Qaeda was saying this shit, that's going to baffle you even more. If you're outside of Australia, you may not remember, but just before Christmas last year, an enormous amount of people had their lives ended on Bondi Beach. Bondi Beach being one of the most famous beaches in the world in Australia. These 2 absolute fucking dickheads, just these grubs, these violent extremist Islamists, they came out to Bondi Beach with an enormous amount of weaponry, ammunition, and ended the lives of so many people, including little kids. And
what the saddest part is, I've seen a lot of people say, this is why you actually need guns. Because if someone had a gun, they could have stopped them. Instead, no one has any defense. I mean, kind of true.
It was just horrifying.
Yeah, bombs too. Lucky they didn't go off.
It sent shockwaves throughout our entire country and probably the world. It was an attack on a Hanukkah celebration, a Jewish holiday. I believe all of the people who had their lives ended, or at least the vast majority, were all Jewish people. The Australian Jewish community didn't feel safe, which is awful. And these 2 men that did this, one had his life ended at the scene, and the son, Navreem Akmar, what his fucking name is, he's now in jail. And he doesn't like jail, apparently. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. The Australian government reacted by trying to stop law-abiding citizens having access to guns.
Yep.
It didn't try and deal with the actual issue at hand. But anyway...
Yeah, it didn't blame the Islamic extremists in our country. They blamed the guns. How retarded is that?
Hey, I digress. But what happened, and I think most people miss this, is the two biggest terrorist organizations in the world, they tried to claim ownership of this shit like it was fucking Coca-Cola or Pepsi sponsoring an NBA team. In February, the Islamic State official spokesperson, very strange that they have official spokespeople, but anyway, well, it's definitely a spokesman, let's face it, it's not a spokesperson. He's a man who hadn't said anything publicly for 2 years, broke his silence over this, and called the attackers, quote, soldiers, quote, brave lions, and urged followers to keep attacking Jews and Christians. Sounds like...
See that? And Christians. It's freaking sick. And you know what? All those people that were mourning Iranian's terrorist dictator leader being taken out by Trump support these type of views, in my opinion. Because Iran sponsors most of the terrorist attacks around the world. So if they're mourning that, why the fuck are they here? They obviously don't have our values and our culture.
Like a healthy religious extremist organization. Does it not? Now, counterterrorism police and experts basically have said that the Islamic State that said this, they claim ownership or they claim responsibility for things all the time. And if you go back in history, they've been doing this for quite a long time. Go back to the Las Vegas shooting, right? They claimed responsibility for that. What it does is it creates aura around them of how scary and dangerous they are, that they're everywhere and anything can happen at any time. It gives them power. But authorities say, and they've said this since very early on, that this was Islamic State inspired, not Islamic State sanctioned. So, the Islamic State, that's brand number one. That's Coca-Cola here. And then there's Pepsi, or more commonly known as Al-Qaeda. On March 28th, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who is basically the Yemen mob, they're the ones who have been trying to blow up Western planes for years and years and years. Anyway, they released issue 12 of their, quote, Inspire Guide. They released an English edition and an Arabic edition. But for me, I hope they released an audiobook. Now, the title of that edition is The Night Bullets Spoke. It's pretty haunting, really, isn't it? Inside, the Bondi attackers, these pieces of shit, they are described as knights. The attack was presented as a model for what they said, and it is a quote, not me saying this, YouTube, the least you can do, end quote, as a Muslim living in America or Europe or Australia. They praised how well planned this was and how well executed the entire plan was. Then there were 6 pages of bomb making instructions, which, you know, pretty typical in most of the magazines we all read. I know that my last issue of Zoo that I read did have some pipe bomb instructions. But the point is, they're releasing this in English because they want to give it to Western people, or at least people who speak English in Western countries, and allow them to be their little sleeper cells, right? But what I found...
I mean, if this is multiculturalism, it's not worth it. I don't want it. If this is diversity, it's not a strength. Can I get some ones in the chat if this is not what we want in Australia, this multiculturalism, this type of multiculturalism? Can I get some ones in the chat? Because that's where we're going. That's what happens when you let these people in en masse. That's what happens when our immigration people say we can't discriminate against people coming in the country from where they come from. Hello? That's kind of your fucking job, to see who's coming in the country. If you don't know who's coming in and say you can't judge people, I'm paying you with our taxpayer money to judge who's coming in the country, to make sure they're not extremists. Like, come on. That's how woke these people are in charge of our country. We can't judge anyone coming in our country. Well, that's what it leads to. This is what it leads to when you don't judge anyone. It's bloody crazy.
Found out whilst researching this video, which I thought was quite confronting, is this...
Tony Burke said today they'll let ISIS fighters back in. Yeah, I've seen something about that. I was going to watch it. We'll see how we go. He's a freak, that guy. Tony Burke.
Australian government says that there is no one here in Australia with any links to Al-Qaeda. And to that I say...
That's such a fucking lie. Come on.
Are you sure? Like, there's none? Are you just saying that to keep people calm? Or are you genuinely thinking that? Because I think, based on zero evidence, I think you're wrong. There's got to be someone, sure.
So do I. I think there's plenty of radicals here.
With the amount of immigration into this country, with the amount of people from other parts of the world, particularly war zones, ravaged, there's got to be at least someone who is a little bit extreme. Consider this. Consider your homeland gets bombed by the West. Don't you think there's a little bit of a chance that you might be a bit of an extremist and want revenge? I'm sure that happens. But if they're going to make these magazines in English, there has to be a reason.
Yep.
They've done their market research. They know that in Western countries there are people who you may call sympathisers, bound to be extremists at some point if the government and the police don't get to them first. Basically, Al-Qaeda's running an ad campaign in Australia, trying to recruit. And it must be working because just a few days ago, The Telegraph reported a new Al-Qaeda video, which opened with footage of the Bondi shooters and then a masked man calling attacks in Western countries, quote, a golden opportunity, end quote. They're not putting that video out to reach people in Yemen. They're trying to get people here.
Yep.
They're trying to get people in your country. That's who they're trying to recruit. And this,
I mean, our university started off with that indoctrination. White people are the devil. Western culture's the fault for everything. Communism's good. Extremists are good. Free Palestine. Palestine's the best. Only support Gaza. And then they watch these radicals online and keep going further and further and further. And we've seen that happen a lot.
This is the story here. This is why the video is so important. Because, yes, I can sit here and say how bad a terrorist, everyone fucking thinks that. But how bad is it that obviously these pieces of shit have identified people who live amongst us who are the next big thing? That's what makes this video scary. That's why I made this video, because they see an opportunity here to get people to do their bidding.
And good on you, Isaac, for actually doing this video. You're an absolute legend, mate. Because, you know, mainstream will hate this. So good on you speaking up, mate. You're an absolute patriot. Jackie, thank you so much, mate. I saw an ex-pom say that they don't feel safe here. Neither do any Jewish people. And anyone really, because our government is anti-Semitic. Arbo knew the PLO. Thank you so much, PLO. Thank you so much, Jackie. I mean, I don't think anyone feels safe at the moment. If you know what's going on in our country, if you see all these radicals on the street, you see them like not even just the political violence on the street. Like they're literally in front of Pauline Hanson the other day. You've seen in my videos chanting death to One Nation, death to Pauline Hanson, and they don't arrest them. They don't. Where's the hate speech laws? That's not even. We don't even need the hate speech laws for that. That's a death threat to a political figure. That's illegal. You can't even do that in America. Yet they do that here. And Albo allows it. It's fucking crazy. So there's something going on here. Something very bad against the Australian people. Thank you, Jackie, you absolute patriot.
Their religious war, whatever you want to call it. So let's check out the Australian government's response. Let's hope that it's watertight. Mike Burgess, he is the head of ASIO, which is the Australian Secret
It's not anti-Semitic, it's anti-West, exactly. It is, it's true. It's anti the whole West.
Organisation like MI5, CIA sort of thing. He said this week that extremists can go from reading stuff online to committing violence within a few weeks. Fair enough. He also said that ASIO has resolved 14 significant terrorism related cases since Bondi. That's 6 months ago. 14 over 6 months. That's a fuck ton. That's a case every fortnight or so.
So that means that what, they've stopped 14 people that were about to do an attack?
Considerable amount, guys. That's a lot. This is in a country, mind you, of 27 million people. Imagine what's happening in the US or the UK. Those numbers are extreme.
Well, that's why they got the diversity barriers everywhere.
particularly the UK, when there are so many people from a lot of these countries who just walk in. That's scary.
Oh.
And how many people have just walked into the United States over the past 10 years or so?
Thank you, Joe Biden.
A lot, particularly during the Biden administration. Those borders were wide
That's right.
open. People were coming from all over the world. You have no idea who lives in your country right now. But how do these fuckers get into Australia?
Albo invites them in for votes. Come on.
We're an island. Well, obviously, the vetting process isn't enough. Naveem Akram...
No, it's racist to vet terrorists. We let ISIS back in our country.
The guy who lived after the Bondi thing, he was born here, so we'll give him that. His dad wasn't. His dad came over from somewhere. And you got to ask yourself, did we do enough to work out whether or not this bloke was a fucking psycho?
No, we didn't. Because he was on the ASIO watch list and they had guns in the house. But they're on the watch list. How does that work? But if I wanted to get one, if I don't have one, I'd be arrested. No, I would be. I'd be denied, sorry. I might be arrested soon. Look out.
You got to ask yourself, with all of the people coming in every single year, how many people has it been? 1.5 million people over 3 years? Have you vetted every single one of those people?
I doubt they vetted any of them under this government. Let's be real.
Have you? Have you vetted them? I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can vet 1.5 million people, 500,000 every single year. We don't have the resources to do that, do we?
And yeah, how many they're letting in en masse? Wasn't it in February? It was like 3,400 people a day coming through to our country. Like, how could you vet that? A day. 3,400 people. Fucking, the government can't even respond to an email in 3 months.
Because the father of the Bondi shooter, or one of the Bondi shooters, he passed all those checks and balances for years. The Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said after the attack that there was, quote, no indication of any radicalisation, end quote, in over the 20 years.
Who is the real threat to Australia? When you're saying stupid shit, let's hear that again.
For years. The Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said after the attack that there was, quote, no indication of any radicalisation, end quote, in over the 20 years.
After he just went overseas, comes back and does a massacre, and he was on the watch list, there was no radicalisation. That's our leader saying that. We're in trouble.
That this man was here in Australia. But Four Corners, which is sort of like 60 Minutes back in the day here in Australia, found two men from the same circle who said that he was voicing support for Islamic State back in 2019, 6 years before the attack. And police also alleged that the two went overseas for training.
There you go. He knows. He's in it.
In how to do this. How do we not know what these fucking people are up to? I don't get it. And to make matters worse, to piss you off, to fucking do my head in, what was Australia doing? What was the government doing whilst we were dealing with the Islamic State saying, hey, let's fucking, let's encourage this to happen in the West more. You're doing such a great job. Well, we were bringing home ISIS brides, Australian citizens, for maybe 2 years, maybe 10 years, maybe born here, whatever. Who gives a shit?
I mean, I don't care if they went over to join ISIS, rip up that passport. Tony Burke, stop giving that fucking passport back. Rip it up. These people are fucking freaks. They don't deserve to be in Australia. And it's not safe for them to come here with their children that have been radicalised their whole life, to go here and probably end up doing an attack here as well, or radicalising other people to do an attack. Doesn't sound like something I want. I don't want people that have been proven to have slaves and sex slaves back in our country because Albo is too soft or has too much of a hard-on for Islam to deny their passport. They say, it's the law, it's the law. You're in fucking charge of the law, Albo. You're in charge. You have the majority power in the seat. No Australian is going to get upset if you change the law to not let people back in the country that join terrorists. No one's going to care. No one's going to say that's against the law. And if they do say that, they shouldn't be in Australia either. Like, come on. That's such a piss-weak answer. It's against the law to not let them back in the country. Well, why the fuck did you pay for their hotel rooms? Who brought them their passports? It's craziness. We live in crazy world. Where a Prime Minister of a country says, I can't stop terrorists coming back in the country because they had Australian citizenship. That's the type of shit we're dealing with now.
Who went overseas to support ISIS, to support their husbands who were part of ISIS. Probably do horrible things too. We just welcomed them back into the country. Are you telling me that that's a good idea? Are you fucking... In closing, ladies and gentlemen, Al-Qaeda thinks that Australia is a breeding ground for their fans, their radical supporters. That's why they're advertising to it. Our own spy department says that radicalisation only takes weeks. But the warning signs, like the last two, they sat there dormant for 6 years and no one did anything. And now the sequel is more than likely being planned. Someone out there is planning it.
I've been saying it since the start.
I don't know if we can find who before it's too late. The question isn't whether or not this will happen, it's when, and can we stop it as a nation? I think it starts at the border.
Yep.
Vetting people. It has to be so much harder to get into this country. That's what needs to happen.
Yep.
We need to be able to absolutely
You should be able to go to the border and say, I'll vote for Labor and get straight in.
that these people aren't evil, vile scum. There's a reason borders exist, because not every single person is compatible with the way that we live life within our borders. And if we are seen as the enemy from day one, then it's only going to take a matter of time before they retaliate. Then it's only going to be a matter of time before they declare war, like they did just before Christmas last year in Bondi Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this video in the comment section down below.
Thank you, Isaac. I'll link his channel in the chat again. I'm loving Isaac getting into these hard topics, getting more into it, speaking up for the truth, absolute patriot. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, join to be a member, means a lot. It's good to see Isaac getting into this. Really good. We've got to keep speaking up for Australia. What's going on? Our leaders letting these people back in our country, ignoring the facts, ignoring what the people want, just for votes, for control, the hate on the Western culture, and the shift towards this dictatorship, communism, silencing of people has to stop. Needs to stop.